Hi, I'm Natalie Sellers with Local Government Risk Management Services. I'm here today to talk to you about distracted driving. This is part one of a four-part series, and today we're going to talk about how's our driving. So our objectives today in how's our driving, we're going to talk statistically speaking on how our driving is. I'm going to examine the reasons for motor vehicle crashes, and then we're going to discuss and evaluate the cost of motor vehicle crashes on local government. And finally, we'll talk about the cost of doing business. And to wrap it up, we'll talk about what's to come next. So let's talk about statistics. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration reports that over 35,000 people are killed in traffic accidents every year. 4 million people are injured. Every 12 minutes, someone dies in a car accident. Every 10 seconds, someone is injured. And every 5 seconds, there is a motor vehicle crash. Now, let's talk about some statistics here in our fair state of Georgia. The Georgia Office of Highway Safety reports that there were over 1,400 motor vehicle fatalities in Georgia in 2015. There were over 385,000 motor vehicle crashes in Georgia in that same year. And finally, there were over 19,000 serious injuries due to motor vehicle crash. Let's do a quick exercise. If you would, think back at a time when you were driving, whether it was at work or otherwise, and you witnessed a bad driver. Write down 3 or 4 of the bad driving habits you witnessed, or maybe they were your own bad driving habits. Once you have written those down, reflect on what could have been the result of those bad driving habits. For example, if someone was following you too close, they could have rear-ended your car. Truth be told, we all have bad driving habits. According to the National Safety Council, 1 in 10 workers text or email while they are driving. 76% of workers exceed the speed limit by at least 35 miles per hour. 42% of accidents are caused by failure to look. 21% of accidents are caused by a failure to judge distance. And 16% of accidents are caused by reckless driving and being in a hurry. Sometimes we fail to make adjustments for the weather, the traffic, and we often become bad drivers ourselves. Following too close and not wearing a seatbelt is also a cause of injury and accidents. Were any of those on your bad driving habits list? So why are we having crashes? Almost all research will declare that the following are the most frequent reasons for automobile crashes. Number 1 is distracted driving. Number 2 is driver fatigue. Number 3 is drunk driving. Number 4 is speeding. Number 5, aggressive driving. And number 6 is the weather. So let me ask you a question. Of those 6 most frequent reasons that I just went over for automobile crashes, tell me how many are a personal choice. Now that we've discussed the reason for crashes, let's talk a little bit about the cost. Most motor vehicle accidents happen during the work day or during the commute to and from work. These accidents cost employers over $60 billion per year in medical, legal, property, and lost time at work. According to the National Highway of Traffic and Safety Administration, the average cost of a crash to an employer is over $16,000. An on-the-job crash with injuries could cost employers up to $74,000, and a crash with a fatality can exceed over $500,000. And even more tragic than all of the above is that most of these crashes are preventable. Let's do another quick exercise to emphasize the costs that are related with motor vehicle accidents. We're going to talk a little bit about direct versus indirect. You have in front of you some line items, and if you will, go through them. And if you don't know the exact cost, you can get with your local field representative, and they will assist you with finding out exactly how much a motor vehicle crash could cost you. So the direct cost, you're looking at workers' compensation benefits, healthcare costs, increase in medical insurance premiums, auto insurance premiums, physical and vocational rehabilitation costs, If you would, just fill these out with the numbers that you do know, and that will give you a rough estimate of how much a vehicle accident could cost you. Now, the second part of the exercise is we're going to take a look at the indirect costs. These are the costs that you don't see because they don't have a dollar amount attached to them. First and foremost, you've got to think about the bad publicity that a motor vehicle accident causes your entity. Furthermore, there's the time spent, the supervisor's time spent to make arrangements to cover a shift, a fleet manager's time spent to replace the vehicle or make arrangements for repair, the overtime costs involved with covering a shift if someone's out due to injury, and the administrative costs, the time spent filling out the paperwork. All these need to be taken into account. And when you add the direct and the indirect costs, you will get the full amount of what a motor vehicle accident can cost you. For more information on figuring the direct and indirect costs of motor vehicle accidents to your entity, you can go to the website listed above, www.cdc.gov, and find other information on how to calculate the cost of accidents on your entity. Is the cost of doing business worth losing your life or the life of one of your employees? The most dangerous part of an employee's day is spent behind the wheel of a car. 90% of crashes are a result of human error and can therefore be prevented. In 2015, there were over 35,000 people that died in motor vehicle accidents. 94% of those were tied to human choice errors. Over 34,000 were attributed to distracted driving, and over 9,000 were attributed to speed. Motor vehicle crashes are the leading cause of unintentional workplace deaths. Every 12 minutes, someone dies in a motor vehicle crash, and because most crashes happen on the job, employers assume the cost of these accidents. And remember, motor vehicle crashes are preventable. According to the Centers for Disease Control in Atlanta, over $14 million are spent in medical costs on motor vehicle crashes, and over $1.6 billion are spent on lost days at work. When you add all this up, you have $1.63 billion in total crash-related deaths in Georgia in 1 year. Employers need to remember that the car is an extension of our workplace, and for some employees, it's their office. Bad driving and bad driving habits are unfortunately a learned or a conditioned behavior. When we do it once and nothing bad happens to us, we eventually wind up doing it again and again and again. Are bad drivers affecting your bottom line? If so, how can you as an employer drive a behavior change in your employees? As we bring part 1 of our 4-part series on distracted driving to a close, I would just like to reiterate or go over some of the things we talked about today. We've discussed the cost associated with distracted driving. We've also discussed the human cost involved in injuries associated with distracted driving. In our next segments, we will discuss 3 types of distracted driving. Part 3 will go over cell phones in the vehicles, and Part 4 of our series on distracted driving will cover how to successfully implement an effective program to reduce and prevent motor vehicles in your entity. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great day.